Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Indian Sun. If you're watching us from Australia, you may have a friend or a family member stuck overseas. According to official estimates, there are about 35,000 Australians stranded overseas, out of which 8,000 are in India alone. But the actual numbers are believed to be much higher. Joining me this evening are the moderators of a Facebook group, Australians Stuck in India, who, instead of being keyboard warriors, try to do something tangible. In the absence of information and directives, the group has tried to plug the gap left by inadequate government response and is trying to help many by sharing information on flights, travel agents, travel advisories, airfares, quarantine facilities, and much more. The online forum has offered a space to many helpless Australians to share their fears and anxieties and receive some practical solutions to this unusual crisis. So let's get to meet them all. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
We have with us Neha Sandhu, Mehul Patel, Ashish Singh, and Joe Gwynn. So let me start by introducing Neha. Hi, Neha.
Hi Harsha, how are you?
I'm good. Neha is a dental assistant and she lives in Queensland. She came to India last year to look after her ailing father in law. She was supposed to return home earlier this year when India went into a lockdown. After months of struggle, she finally managed to fly back home in June. Having been through a tough time, Neha decided to help others reunite with their families. She has helped many parents unite with their children stuck in India. We have with us Jo Gwynn. Jo is a teacher in Melbourne. She came to India last November. She was in the midst of planning a return home when India went into a lockdown. While searching for people in the similar situation, Jo stumbled on the group and she stumbled on the group by chance and later became one of the moderators. Jo is very active on the group. She keeps everyone posted on the latest advisories, news reports, announcements, and share updated advice on everything a traveler should be knowing about. Jo could finally return home in May. Mehul is an IT professional. Hi, Mehul. His
Hi, Harsha.
hi. His wife and their newborn were due to leave India when the country went into a lockdown. After many months of struggle to book a ticket, Mehul's wife and child could finally return home in May. It was during this arduous struggle that Mehul chanced upon the group and later became one of the moderators to help other stranded Australians. And also joining in discussion is Ashish. Ashish has spent the last 6 months in fear and uncertainty as his plans to work in Australia are put on hold indefinitely. After finishing masters, Ashish came to India earlier this year to spend time with his family. He was supposed to travel back on a post-study work visa, but could file his application due to travel restrictions. He launched his visa application in September, following the much-awaited post-study work visa change for international students. For now, the international students' return is last on the list of priority for the Australian government, which has put thousands of students' careers in limbo. Thank you all for joining us this evening. And
Harsha.
before
Thank
we
you,
Thank you,
Harsha.
Harsha, for having us.
Thank you, Harsha.
Thank you, Harsha.
before we dive into
Thank you, Harsha.
the discussion, I would like to tell our viewers that one of the reasons why we thought of doing this discussion is to spread the word about the group so that more people can join and get help. And secondly, to get some insights, recommendations, clarity on the topic from our panelists, as they all have been dealing with a lot of travel issues. So let's just get going straight away. I'll start with you, Joe. Joe, for anyone who doesn't know about the group, can you briefly tell us about it?
Yeah, sure. So our group started back in late March when the lockdown started in India, and initially it was simply just a way for other Australians who were stuck in India to connect with each other and start to work out what is going on. Since then, our group has really become a fantastic place for sharing advice, for sharing information, and for sharing travel tips, for connecting and supporting with other people in a similar situation, and also for helping passengers who have been lucky enough to get a ticket back to Australia to connect with each other and support each other on the journey back home.
Thank you, Jo. Okay, coming to Neha. Neha, for most Australians struggling to book tickets home, the experience has been that either the tickets are very expensive or they're non-existent. Non-existent. So, can you tell us what sort of problems people are facing in securing tickets?
So first problem is decision about which flight. And when they try to book, there are few options. First is the Air India, and then Qantas, which is the Australian government's initiative, started last month, and few transit routes. So for Air India has done maximum flights under different Vande Bharat mission, and I think now sixth or seventh phase is going on. And people suffer most with Air India. The main problem earlier was the domestic travel ban due to the lockdown in India. When that issue has resolved, then other issues came. Then in the third phase, the major issue was the agent booking, and the price was way behind the original price of. Then when after that, few other issues like the technical issues of Air India app and website, payment issues. Sometime payment has gone, but there is no ticket. After that, the other issue now, because of capping, there are limited seats. Sometimes it's 35 up to 50 seats, and most of the flights are going to Sydney. Nowadays, some flights are booked without even booking opening. The reason is, one is there are few cancelled flights of Air India, and the readjustment of those passengers. Other strong reason is the recommendations. People are finding higher level of recommendations in aviation industry, minister approach, or higher level authorities, and due to that, booking is difficult. And AHC, Australian High Commission, always denies its role in Air India booking, but still there are some recommendations of the vulnerable categories, or that's why people are angry and frustrated because that booking is not open to public. Other option now started as Qantas, and for that defect registration is must, and with the registration you must have a registration number starting with CT, and the call comes from DFAT. It's not the to book is not in your hand, it's in DFAT's hand.
Right. Neha, I would like to pick a point you just made. So many people complain that their flight has been cancelled when the airline is still flying as scheduled, and tickets for the same flight is available in business and first class. I think this is one of the many fallouts of introducing passenger caps. Operators are
Yes.
cancelling tickets for economy customers to offer more business and first class seats. So I would like to hear from the panelists. What do they think about the passenger caps? Yeah.
The passenger cap is the biggest issue because only a limited number of people in between from 30 and sometimes it's 50. In between those number only people can fly. So airlines has to survive. They can't actually go with the 30 passengers of economy class. So that's why they try to sell more business class rather than economy.
Would anybody like to add here, Joe or Mehul, about this?
Yeah, so lockdown were imposed by both the governments, started from March. And then when Australian government started taking Australians back in country, at that time there were no caps, or even if the caps were there, they were at the higher levels. And these caps were not imposed per flight. Meaning of that is one particular airline or a flight could take 150 to 180 passengers. So without caps in place, aviation industry was smoothly repatriating stranded Australians from different parts of the world. But as soon as Melbourne actually imposed the ban on international arrivals after the outbreak and clusters in Melbourne. And still that has not been resolved, meaning that Victoria, a state in Australia, is not accepting Australians back in the country. When I say that a international commercial passenger flight ban is the reason for that. So after that, Sydney is doing heavy lifting, and then Australian government decided that there would be a cap imposed per flight. So when you have a per flight cap, that actually tightens the situation, and plus closes most of the avenues for stranded Australians to come back with all available resources they have. So I have seen cases where families have spent 10 grand to 15 grand, which is 15,000 Australian dollars. And even after spending that much, when they approach the check-in counters at airport, airlines said that you have been bumped off after 2 months of flight, meaning that your tickets were economy, and now because we cannot let you go in that flight due to the caps in place, now we need to ask you to wait for your turn after 2 months, or even after they wait for 2 months, they were not being lucky to board the next flight. Even the same bumping will happen at that time. So business class were given priority for airlines to sustain in the industry.
Right. You're absolutely right. Also, I would like to add here that Australian Human Rights Commission recently said that they have received several human rights complaints about the travel cap, and that countries' cap on international arrivals could be unconstitutional and breach international laws. So I would like to know your perspective on this. Joe, would you like to add something?
Yeah, look, it's so disappointing. Australia is the only country in the world who is currently putting restrictions in place for their own citizens and their own residents for coming back into Australia. And it's just heartbreaking because finally there are flights coming from India back into Australia. But instead of hundreds of people being on a flight, there's just 35 to 50. And it's just not enough to get everyone back home safely. It's just really frustrating and really disappointing.
Yeah, it's high time they remove the cap and let the stranded Australians come home. Joe, I have my next question is for you. So, a week ago, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, DFAT, issued a warning that scammers are contacting Australians stranded overseas and trying to sell them fake tickets. So, have people been reporting about such fraud calls in the group?
Yeah, so quite a few of our members have experienced this type of issue with scammers and fraud agents, so to speak. People that are being contacted and being offered tickets that actually don't exist, or they're being asked to pay a deposit for flights that don't exist, and then these scammers then just vanish into the air. And it's really disappointing and frustrating that there are people out there who want to take advantage of people who are stuck and who are in distress. And sadly, it's not just the scammers. Even some airlines are taking bookings for flights that don't have permission to either leave from India or arrive in Australia. So it's really important that people are really up to date with what's actually happening so that they're not susceptible to these types of scams.
Joe, also one more thing about the group. The group has about 12,000 members right now. So how many members are joining like every day?
Yeah, thanks. It's a good question. So On average, we have about 1,500 people requesting to join our group each month. Our group currently has almost 13,000 people in it, and it just continues to grow, which is, I think, shocks all of us just to imagine how many people are stranded in India and waiting to get back into Australia.
Yeah, much more than the official figure of 35,000, much more than that.
Far more than the official figure released by the Australian government. Yeah.
Yes. Coming to
Harsha, can
yeah,
I
sure.
add something in what Joe just said there? There is a reason why we are seeing this many members joining every month, and this reason is people or even DFAT and Australian government, they go by numbers, right? So 2 months back, when Cabinet came out with a decision that there are 18,500 stranded Australians overseas. And then they say that even with 6,000 per week cap, it will take only 6 to 7 weeks for everyone to return. But in reality, if we all admins and moderators agree, what is happening now is Australian government has started providing exemptions for Australians to travel or go outside of Australia. Now, travel is not the right word because these people are also in desperate needs to see their immediate families and family members who are in severe medical situations. So what's happening now is because the leniency has been introduced by Australian governments in granting the exemptions, these numbers are adding up. So for example, if every month, if 2,000, 3,000 exemptions are granted, these people are going to come back. These people will be in the need to return back. And this is where we administrators and moderators struggle to understand that though there is a very low number of flow going out, how come the registration to join our group, and also I think DFAT must be also going through the same misery that every day, every single hour, how come we are getting new registrations in? So initial number that was announced by them 2 months back, which was 18,000, which was last announced by them 32,000. And if you personally believe me, just my personal view, I think they are not revealing the right number. And these numbers are increasing day by day, and they are not organizing flights. So even in the past, charter flights were approved, which are not approved anymore. And if I only talk about stranded Australians in India, they are only getting their hopes and chances on Vande Bharat mission, where yes, there are 10 plus flights per month, but look at the numbers they can fly, because all of those flights are going to Sydney. And when you are going to Sydney, there is a cap of 35 to 50, including crew members, right? So that means only 35 per flight, and based on that number, 10 flights per month, 350 per month. So if 1,000 people registering and joining our group, and maybe half of them, let's say 500 registering with DFAT, pretty much this situation is not helping up. It's just my additional 2 cents into the matter that Joe explained.
Yeah.
Harsha, I want to add one more thing. Out of this number, probably 3 or 4,000 are those returned back but didn't leave the group.
I completely agree with Mehul here. According to some reports, they say the numbers could be up to 1 lakh. So yes, that's the reason
Yes.
we see more people joining the group. And okay, moving on to the discussion, Neha, the group details a lot of stories of parents anxiously waiting for the children to return home. And I understand you've helped many children reunite with their family, and you still get plenty of messages from desperate parents looking for arrangements to bring their children back home. So, can you tell more about this and also about how bad the situation is? What kind of arrangements parents are exploring in this crisis?
It is really a bad situation. Many parents are approaching. I got many messages from different parents. These are the kids who went to India for short holidays with their grandparents. But now the problem is coming because grandparents cannot travel because their exemptions are not approving. And parents actually want their kids to be here. So I try to, my role is like to intermediate. I try to find some suitable person or a couple who can actually take or bring the child here in Australia. And the initial few calls are from my side. Then actually I request the parents to contact directly. And if they find the person is suitable, then we try to organize the travel.
So roughly how many, parents contacted you in the last 6 months?
I think it will be number will be more than 30, I remember, and few children are returned back. Some with the family friends, some few we organized, and still there are many children stuck there. And in this, Air India has helped few parents because above 6 year and old can travel on Air India as unaccompanied minors. And with Air India also few children were able to reunite with their parents.
And do you still see people posting about such requests on the group?
Yes.
Other members also get such requests?
Yes,
Joe?
yes, Harsha, we constantly receive this kind of request because people share their experience when they see their kids returning back with the help of admins, especially Neha taking that front. So we admins we have divided roles to play. I mean, each of us we receive messages on a daily basis. But we delegate them to the appropriate person who knows in and out of the process. So for example, if someone is approaching me saying that my kid is stranded there for last 8 to 9 months, Mehul, can you please help me, what is the procedure, rather than I start from the scratch, the right thing would be for me to delegate and navigate that request to Neha, because Neha is a front end warrior, I would say, on this matter. And I would like to use this platform, Harsha. Neha ji mentioned that Air India staff also helps to accompany 6+ years kid to return back to Australia. But Neha ji, correct me if I'm wrong here, and if this platform is not right to mention, but I would like to say that we have also helped kids who were of the age of 2, 3, 4,
Yes. Yes.
and smaller kids.
Yeah.
And why? Yeah. So in this situation, Harsha, what has happened that this fantastic group of 12,000 plus members right now we have. On just a request of Neha ji or me or Joe or Ashish, we immediately get guardian angels. These guardian angels are like right now God sent people for these parents who are waiting for their kids to be reunited with them. And if we just post a message on the group that guys, you are flying in the next flight, and we have also secured a ticket for a kid. The only problem right now is to make sure that they have someone to accompany them to Australia. And you won't believe that people have gone through above and beyond their role in this pandemic, right? Where AHC, which is Australian High Commission, should be helping these kids and parents to get reunited. Rather than that, now this group is playing a mini AHC role. I would talk to you about more into that one, but I just wanted to thank all of those guardian angels who took those childrens with you, and pretty much now they are reunited in Australia with their parents. I mean, you come to our Facebook group, you will see all those experience parents shared with us with their pictures of kids and things like that. Those are the moments we moderators pretty much live up to it. If someone says that why you are spending this much of energy 5 a.m. in the morning, Joe must be replying to messages. 11 p.m. me, I'm here, I'm getting WhatsApp messages and I'm replying. Why? Because when we see these families getting reunited to each other, we little bit feel a sense of achievement. This sense of achievement should be felt by our honorable High Commissioner sitting in Delhi in Australian High Commission office, rather than us feeling it. So I mean, my heart goes out when I hear the stories where kids are apart from parents for 8 to 9 months now.
Harsha, I want to add one thing here. I'm doing this because I'm away from home for 18 months due to a family emergency. and I was separated from my kids, I can actually sense that pain parents are feeling without their kids. So that's why I try to help my best, like whatever I can. And one more thing now, for this, the Qantas flight, DFAT is, I came to know that through one parent that DFAT has actually allotted the case officer for their daughter, and they requested me to find somebody, and I actually found a girl who is flying with it's the girl, I think the child's age is around 3-year-old. So she is taking care of 3-year-old, and we're reaching on 23rd Qantas flight.
Fabulous. May your tribe grow, and that's very well put, Mehul. Joe, would you like to say anything here? Would you like to add something?
Look, I'm not a parent, and I cannot imagine what these families are going through. And all I can do is, on behalf of everyone who Neha in particular has helped, I just want to say thank you, and thank you so much to all of our group members who are really going above and beyond, not just to help out other group members, but to help these families who are stranded away from their children, and helping them to reunite those children with their parents. It's amazing effort from everybody.
Here, I would like to steer the conversation towards international students whose careers are in limbo. So, coming to you, Ashish, we have been seeing a whole range of uncertainties for students. So, personally, how have the last 6 months been like for you?
Harsha, speaking on myself, when I came to India in March and I got stuck here due to the travel restriction imposed, um, the sense of disappointment that struck me was, and I also I was confused about my future, and then I didn't know what will happen about my full work rights or if I will be able to travel pretty sooner. But ultimately, I settled in, and then I realized that sitting in a state of confusion is not going to help, and then I should do something about it. And that was one reason why I joined the group. And I was also contacting student unions, which is NUS and CISA, to advocate for international students and who are stuck all over the world, not just India. And then I realized I'm not the only one in India, and there are thousands of students here who are stuck in different parts of the country. And those who didn't come in February, but those who are here even from before, like November 2019. And so that gave me a sense of togetherness, that I'm not alone, and there are people with me, and that we all should come out of it together. And that's it. So, and then there are lots of students who are in a state of who are upset about what's being done for them, and then they're not being prioritized alongside Australian citizens and PRs. And recently, I mean, the pilot program has been like striked out, and then we don't know when we will be able to return anytime sooner or not.
So, Ashish, you have recently finished your masters, and so you just applied for your post study work visa. So, can you tell us,
Yes.
how it's affecting different categories of students, like students who have finished their studies, students who are in the middle of their course. So how it's affecting different categories of students?
All right. So when I recently lodged a post-study work visa 485, and even if I granted the visa, the only uncertainty is that we cannot return anytime sooner. So if I get the visa, I'll be just sitting here with the visa unless I'm being granted exemption to travel. And with the segment of students, I can divide it into three parts. How it will affect is because recently the visa concessions was declared and the legislation change was made in September, so which is quite recent, and students have been waiting since February and March for this change. And students are here, but they are paying rent and bills in Australia. They are separated from their partners as well, and their employers are waiting for them to return or start part-time work, casual time work, or some employees were ready to give them full-time work as well, which is in my case. And there are also students who already graduated, and then the 6-month deadline to lodge graduate visa is lapsed. So they don't know if their applications will be accepted or not, and what will they do if it's lapses. So there's uncertainty here as well. And then second is about the students who are still on subclass 500 student visas, and since there is no pilot program for them, so they're still paying bills. And then there are some courses which needs a hands-on experience and practical setup, so which can't be done on an online session or a virtual session. So they want to go back so that they can resume their studies. Some students have deferred their semesters to the next one, and they have been deferring since July. So, and some students who were waiting for their first semester, who wanted to go for the first time, and then now their plan has been postponed, and they don't know if they will be able to go or study and start their life in Australia. So this segment of students have started looking for possibilities apart from Australia. So Canada and UK have free border policy for students and graduates. So students have started diverting their plans to Canada, which is a matter of concern, because they had already made their mind and decided to live in Australia and study and work later on. But now that has completely shifted to Canada and UK. So yeah, that's pretty disappointing.
So it's going to impact a wide spectrum of students. Also, I would
Exactly.
like to tell the viewers, if they don't know, like a couple of days ago, Australia paused the program to bring international back. And for now, the priority will be given to the citizens as residents. So international students, students have to wait for maybe 6, 7 months before their turn comes. So it's going to be a very long wait for them. So okay, coming back to Mehul, I would like to understand from you the mood in the group. Do Australian citizens and residents and stranded students at large feel abandoned by the government?
Harsha, before I start that, I would just like to show you a document. Okay, this is Australian passport, and as per the most powerful passport index 2020, this is the world's second most powerful passport in the world right now. Okay, and if you ask me for the moods of people in our group, and Australian citizens stranded in India, not only in India, but all around the world. But as our group is focusing on stranded Australians in India, I would like to just say that if anyone would like to challenge this index of Australian passport being second most powerful passport in the world, you come to India and you ask the stranded Australians there, is this the reality that you are holding this passport and are you feeling powerful? I'm really sorry for this harsh word that is coming out of my mouth, but I'm experiencing and seeing all these crying stories every single day on this group for last 6 to 7 months. My heart literally goes out for those who are waiting calmly. So if I give you the background of it, in March, our Prime Minister requested every Australians who were overseas to stay put if you have access to shelter, if you have access to financial resources, if you have access to health facilities, while we work on a strong and a feasible plan to repatriate all of you. I'm talking about this statement in month of March. We are in November now, and we are talking about this number just increasing by data released from DFAT and ABF, right? And this number is increasing. If you are seeing that Australian government is very focused to establish a plan, then you would see that the quarantine facility that talked about into Howard Springs in Darwin, we would be having 50 to 100 quarantine facilities. If the quarantine is needed, and if that's where the problem is, then you would be setting that up. Your hotels are empty. So when your hotels are empty and you are talking about where do we have facilities, then how come one state is doing heavy lifting where at least 2,000, 3,000 Australians are returning back every week, whereas other states are what that they are just accepting what 500, 250 per week? Why is that so? Being so powerful in the world, right? And if you are claiming that we care about our citizen, I mean, I would literally read this out to you. So this is what is it's written on Australian passport. The Governor General of the Commonwealth of Australia, being the representative in Australia of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, request all those whom it may concern to allow the bearer, an Australian citizen, to pass freely without let or hindrance, and to afford him or her every assistance and protection of which he or she may stay in need. Okay. Meaning of that, Harsha, is if you hold this passport, pretty much no government should stop you to return back to your home, to return back to your land. Whereas your own government, as Joe said, we are the first country in the world where we have caps in place to get our stranded Australian back. Can you imagine this? So now I would like to talk about how our own institutions are being paralyzed by policymakers sitting in Canberra. So when I joined this group, Harsha, I was, and I'm still a proud Australian. And at that time when I joined in, I was like with heavy heart coming out, protecting every interest of Australian High Commission based in Delhi. So I was reading out these 50-50. So a few people were appraising AHC's role in how they are helping stranded Australians to repatriate back, and 50% of them were putting negative energy in the group, saying that what AHC is doing, what our own High Commission is doing in realizing the fact that these many members are apart from their family. People are on the verge of losing their job. They are not getting any financial assistance, because if you understand the welfare system of Australia, the moment you walk out of Australia, you are not entitled for any single penny. So these people are paying mortgages. These people have their life to maintain, their family to maintain, to put food on table. Though they are stranded overseas, they have family back here, right? Kids, they need to go to school. Kids need to eat every single day. uh, where can I start and where can I stop? So let's just focus on how our own institution, which is based on that statement on the passport. If I am stranded in India, my first point of contact should be my Australian High Commission based in Delhi. Dear and honorable Barry O'Farrell, if he is listening, I have full respect for you. Okay, and please, before I begin, do not take my words against you only. This is purely based on policies formed by Canberra, and they have imposed those policies on you. So Harsha, going back to my point, when I joined the group, I was protecting AHC by all means. If someone was writing something against Barry, I would come out as a wild tiger, in the jungle, and say that don't touch him, leave him alone. He must be working in the background as hard as possible to create this safe passage, for all of us to return back. But what I experienced month by month, AHC backing off. And this backing off is not the intention of people working behind that compound in Delhi. This is purely the messages and directions coming from the government here in Canberra, saying that you just put your hands in your ear and do not cry on all the stories coming to you. So I would tell you how, and with the facts, right? So Joe, Neha would agree with me when they went back to Australia, and when Simon Quinn, who is the initial founder of our page, who was actively working with AHC. AHC was on its toe to help every Australians in every possible way to repatriate back in Australia. But once the tumble started in Melbourne with the hotel quarantine blunder that happened, and that created this whole havoc of establishing the caps and everything in place. Australian government realized that if we do not put these caps in place, then the flow of people coming in the country is not going to stop. So people in India and Australians stranded in India may think that they are being discriminated by Australian government, that this is only happening in India. My friends, this is not only happening in India. I am also following very actively the High Commission in UK, High Commission in US, High Commission in UAE, and you just name it. People like us crying everywhere. So, standard and templated responses from AHC is not only coming to your email address. These responses are templated and circulated to every single high commission working around the world. So if you question them that, my dear and honorable high commissioner of Australia, my family or my kid is stranded in India, what are my possible options? You know what you get, Harsha? You get a templated response. We are doing our best, and we appreciate the efforts that Australian government is doing to suppressing the virus. Okay, if you are doing your best, then your standard templated answer that is coming out to each and every email coming towards to you for last 6 months, that's one part. The next part is, Joe mentioned that AHC behind the door, helping all vulnerable people, and they put recommendations to airlines to book tickets behind the door. I just can't begin to explain you how disintegrates this entire situation and the process. Why? Because being AHC into a country, you should be most respectful and trustworthy agency or body by your own people who are stranded into that country. Now, what is happening right now is, one side AHC comes out officially saying that we have no role to play in booking tickets with Air India and Vande Bharat mission, and behind the scene they have vulnerable list of people who should get the priority. Now, someone would say that is wrong, but from my point of view, that is the right thing. AHC should have been doing this since March. They should have created this vulnerable list. Not only vulnerable list, I mean, it's 9 months people are stuck in India. Why each and every one of them should not be classified as vulnerable? You tell me. If Prime Minister is away from his family for 8 to 9 months, doesn't he fall into the category of vulnerable? So the right strategy that I would say that why AHC is paralyzed is because if they would have followed as a best practice from start, not only AHC, also the policymakers in Canberra, that you register with DFAT, you will be given a token or a queue number, and whenever you wish to come back, DFAT or AHC, DFAT from Australia and AHC from where you are stranded will be in touch with you and advising you that there is a flight and now it is your turn. Would you like to go? And at that time, if you make a choice that no, I don't want to go, then fine, you can go back to the queue. And that's where you could have managed the queue. Right now, what is happening is, if someone gets an exemption to travel to India or to any part of the world right now from Australia, they leave, they finish their business there, and in 10 days, doesn't matter if they have a political influence into that country, if they have money to spend on the business class ticket, if they decide to come back, they will come back immediately. And the poor family who is sitting there for 8 to 9 months, they are stranded there because they cannot afford to pocket 10 to 15 grand just to come back to Australia. Forget about the quarantine cost, right? And that's where the entire hotel quarantine program, if your medical experts are saying that it is required, fine, it is required. But then where you are failing to repatriate all these Australians back, that is completely out of understanding. I mean, you have your fine, India has got a national carrier, Air India. Australia hasn't got a national carrier. There are so many people around the world who are still believing that Qantas is the national carrier for them. This pandemic proved it, that Qantas is only interested into their financial interest. So right now, they are not working with Australian government and say that we are happy to run subsidized flights with you if you fund them, and we will repatriate all these Australians back by Christmas. So what is happening now? Australia never started any repatriation mission like India. India repatriated all of their citizens, right? Even running the flights at the higher cost, people were happy to pay. Still, people stranded in Australia, they're happy to pay any money that any airline asks for. But tickets, how they going to get the tickets? So rather than elevating and expediting your process and your protocols, what Australian government has started doing is tightening the screws bit hard every month. So till August, they were approving charter flights. So these charter groups, they were making sure that charter flights are going to those parts where at least per flight 100 to 150 people are allowed to fly. Right now, Vande Bharat mission is restricted to Sydney only. Why? Just doesn't make any sense. A flight carrying passengers, same fuel it takes. Why to land to Sydney, where you could just establish this infrastructure somewhere else? Now, I know Sydney has got all these hotels and facilities and things like that, but then why the cap then? How the cap is helping you to suppress the virus? Cap doesn't help you to suppress the virus. One side you are saying that we don't have resources, and this entire situation handled by Australian government is completely, I mean, out of any sensible mind. If any of the panelists here or any of the group members disagree with me, you guys can correct me right now. But I am right now, if I'm holding this passport and if I am stranded in India, I am not feeling powerful at all. I am angry. Though I am angry, and I can speak behalf of all of my 12,500 group members, I am still pleading to my AHC. Please convey our message. We are away from our family for a very long time. And this message, my family is back here. But people say, my wife asked me a question, why you are doing this? Right? Your family is back, your daughter is back. And I said that when you were there, my heart was crying here that I'm away from my toddler who was just 12 months old that time and 9 months away from me. So I literally, my heart cries out. And this is the reason I'm sitting here. This is the reason all of these administrators, Ashish, right, for example, doing amazing job in helping people in so many ways. Though he takes the front of a student, right? But like you go to our group, you will see him taking all the fronts. Joe, back in Melbourne, back in Australia, back in Victoria, right? What's the reason for her to be there? So the compassion, and that's the power, and that's why I call this group as mini AHC. It's not us, it's not all of us, just 4 people here. It's 12,500 group members supporting each other, working as a mini AHC. And still we are hopeful that our government will do something. My final words, if I can tell you, Harsha, I plead Barry O'Farrell and I plead Scott Morrison, please listen to all people stranded around the world, not only in India. You don't need to do this. This pandemic will go away, but what you are doing and your party is doing right now will never go out of mind of people and kids. Thanks, Harsha.
So we have here a lot of information of Mehul, and I think Mehul is absolutely right. If you go to the group and if you see the angst in people, you'll completely agree with Mehul that Australian government didn't actually fail to rise to the occasion, and they just didn't have a clear strategy to support people returning from overseas. Mehul has already answered some of my questions, so here I would like to hear from Joe and Neha and Ashish. You know what they would like to say about the repatriation program by Australian government, or the high charges they're levying on quarantine facilities, or so the overall perspective I would like to get from other panelists. To go first.
Yeah, so look, it is unprecedented what is happening, but it's been nearly 9 months now that the Australian government has had time to make a response and to look after Australian citizens, Australian residents, and all of those other people who contribute to the Australian economy. And it's not okay that they haven't stepped up and made some plan to get everybody home safely. Yes, we understand quarantine is essential, and Australia's made great progress so far in containing the virus throughout the country. But all of the people who contribute to Australia are important, not just the people who are inside Australia. And so it's really important that more is done more action is taken to get everybody back home to safety.
I shall add, like I fully agree what Mehul said, and really families who have who are stuck with 2 or 3 kids, they are really suffering. They are paying all their expenses back in Australia, like whether it is in the form of mortgage and bill or the rental. They are really suffering, and they are without money, without any support, and but they are not able to reach. People are risking. They are actually doing multi-transit routes, and sometimes the transit route is actually closed. It is closed in Singapore, it is closed in Malaysia, and people were stuck here. And ASC helped there. The country's Australian High Commission helped there, like to get back them to the Australia. And these doors are also closing for them. And the other major issue with this transit route is coming. Some agents are holding all the tickets for the particular route and reselling those tickets at higher prices. And then it's really difficult for people to spend so much money for these difficult transit routes.
Absolutely. Coming to the end of this session, Joe, would you like to offer some advice to prospective travelers? Would you like to
Look, yeah, sure, thank you. Like, not denying one single word that Mehul and the rest of our group has said here. We're very disappointed with the Australian government's response. However, despite that, one of the most important things that you can do to put pressure on the Australian government and have some chance of getting back into Australia is to register your details and explain your situation to DFAT by registering on covid19.dfat.gov.au. Also, there is very limited financial assistance available, and I would encourage anybody who might be eligible for that financial assistance from the Australian government to please apply for that. But most importantly, please stay informed. So whatever is going on, you can make the best decision with the best information for yourself and for your family. And hopefully you can also reach back to Australia safely really soon.
Thank you, Joe. And Ashish, would you like to offer some advice to the student community?
Sure, Harsha. My advice to students is that please stay updated with government press release and the media informations, because things are changing very quickly, and we should not miss out on any important update about international students. So if you turn on your TV and you read your on news, you might see a different news tomorrow or day after tomorrow. And also, I want to advise that there's a power in number. So if we come collectively and approach student unions, like I said, CISA and NUS work for international students, and they advocate for us. So if we come together and approach them to stand for us, so definitely they'll do that, and there will be a fruitful outcome. And one more important thing is that if you have ever worked in a critical skill area or sector in Australia, be it a casual time or a part-time, there is no harm in applying for travel exemption, and there is a possibility that it might get accepted, and you might just get lucky to travel to Australia. And support each other. We are students, and it's not that although we stand at last in the priorities, but we need to support each other, especially in times like this. And I want to appeal to the Australian government is that please allow international students to come soon, so that we can start our lives, followed by a well-deserved employment later. And I think it's not just me, but all international students will agree that we ensure that we won't be a burden on Australian economy and health system. And yeah, we will contribute as much as we can to the Australian community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish. That brings us to the end of our talk. But before we wrap up, any closing words, any message for our viewers? Anybody? And if there's anything we are leaving out here that needs to be addressed, please just go ahead.
Yeah. So Harsha, I would utilize this platform, and first of all, thank you very much for getting us together I mean, that's where the strength is. More we are talking about on the group, yes, it is making an impact, but now having it out there, talking together, and this group of 12,500 members, that's the strength. So my request to everyone who are still stranded in India, yes, my words cannot help you, but the request is stay put, stay healthy, stay in the best form you can, and there will be possibilities coming on your way. Yes, every month possibilities are arising, and every month possibilities are closing, but that's the window that we need to catch the opportunity. So we admins are here, we moderators are here, we are looking at the transit routes, we are also looking at the direct flights and information coming out, but at the same time our job is to protect you from the scammers. Joe is doing absolutely great on that front, but also we all group admins and moderators are being vigilant. So people are there who can take advantages of these unprecedented situations, but we are doing our best to make sure that you don't fall into those traps. Last words for group members, I have already said that stay upbeat, stay healthy, stay focused on getting back to Australia. But to my own lovable Honorable High Commissioner sitting in Delhi, if you are listening to this, please work on creating safest passage for stranded Australians to repatriate back to Australia. If Scott Morrison is listening to this, might you have really great ties with India, and it is not only for India. Australians are stranded all around the world. My appeal to you is Christmas is coming. At least these families and stranded Australians listened to you in month of March, trusted you and your government. Now it's your time to deliver. Thank you.
Sure, Neha.
I want to say the people still, I can actually see people who are not registered with DFAT. So for them to register, what is your visa status? It doesn't matter. Register with DFAT and wait for the call. And other thing, I want to thank all those volunteers who are actually working behind the scenes, whether in the form of volunteer organizations providing food in the quarantine facilities, the admins. We delegate duties to few admins who are doing a very good job in the WhatsApp groups we created. So I thank to everybody who are helping each other, who are helping the group members. I want to thank all of those.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you, each one of you, for taking time out. I hope this session was helpful for many. And we really hope those stranded Australians, like, they come home soon and they're back by Christmas. So thank you, each one of you, for taking time out.
Thank you, Harsha.
Thank you, Harsha.
Thank you.
Thank you,
for
Harsha.
Thank you.